Ascending in PoE 2 can be tricky even when you don't have this trash-talking high school mascot pointing out all your mistakes.
Shouldn't have picked that.
That's why I'm here to give you all the information you'll need to wipe that smug smile right off his stupid face. When we're through, you'll have absolutely no trouble taking on anything you might find in... So let's start with the basics. How do you even get into the Trial of Chaos? Well, your first invitation comes from Zyclution the Chimera in the Chimeral Wetland Zone in Act 3. You'll drop a special quest version of an inscribed ultimatum which can be attempted as many times as you want. Any subsequent inscribed ultimatums will be one-time use only. You can take that or any other ultimatum over to the Trial of Chaos, which branches off of that same zone. Toss it in the altar here and you're ready to go.
An eager mercenary approaches in search of riches.
That first quest ultimatum will provide you your first set of Ascendancy Points, or your second set if you've already gotten your first from the Trial of Sekimas in Act 2. Your second set of Ascendancy Points can also be gained by running a 7-room inscribed ultimatum if you didn't get them anywhere else. Although if you're following the intended Ascendancy path, you may never even run one of these. Your third set of points can be gained by running a 10-room inscribed ultimatum, with your final set of Ascendancy Points being granted upon defeat of the Trialmaster after the end of the 10th floor. I'll get into how to access the Trialmaster fight a little bit later, so stay tuned. In between each room, the Trialmaster will appear to show you what loot you stand to gain if you successfully complete the next one, adding those rewards to an ever-increasing pool of loot, which you can choose to take before the end of the trial. However, this will end your run prematurely. If you choose to proceed to the next room, any loot which you have in your pool will be put back up on the table. Fail, and you'll lose it all. In order to proceed to the next room, you'll be forced to choose between one of 3 downsides. These modifiers persist between rounds, making later rooms more and more deadly. They can range from hardly harmful to devastating based on your build. Here's a list of all the current downsides as well as if they have an additional tier associated with them. You should be counter-building as many of these as you can to reduce the odds that you're forced to take a run-ending modifier. This is especially true for any mods which have multiple tiers. Take Stormcaller runes for example. This mod has 3 tiers, which potentially eliminates up to 3 out of 10 of the downsides you're forced to take, and all you need to do to counterbuild it is just cap your lightning resistance. The same is true for things like damage as extra chaos. If you're immune to chaos damage from chaos inoculation, both tiers of this mod are completely free. Once you've chosen your downside and proceeded to the next room, you'll be given an objective to complete while there.
Ravage and ransack.
You should focus on this over all else, as it's the only thing that actually contributes to room completion, and oftentimes monsters will continually spawn until the job is done. Ascendancy points are cool and all, but you won't be jumping through all of these hoops just for that. The majority of loot that you'll find in the Trial of Chaos are corrupted rares, and I would say they can safely be disregarded with the exception of a rare few. But on floors 4, 7, and 10, you'll be offered a soul core instead. These are socketable in your gear just like runes are, but they're unique to the Trial of Chaos and have much more interesting and powerful effect. If you are in Trade League, the majority of these are not going to be worth very much, but the top 3 you should definitely be aware of. If you do manage to get your hands on one of these incredibly valuable soul cores, it might be worth dipping out and just resetting your whole run. A room which offers a soul core as a reward will also always contain a boss fight. There are 3 bosses which will appear in a random order as you make your way through the trial. In a 10-room ultimatum, you'll have to face all of them at least once. In a 4-room and 7-room ultimatum, you'll only have to face 1 or 2 of them, but they will still appear in a random order. For me personally, Uxmal is the easiest but most annoying one of the 3. He has a lot of lingering area denial abilities which make it really difficult to hit him if you're melee. And by the time these areas have cleared, he's probably taken off and flown to another country. And the differing elevation in the arena can make it difficult to stay on top of him. I say he's not that dangerous because both of his very well telegraphed slams just require you to move away from him for a little bit, but one attack you should be aware of is where he uses his tail to spew puddles of poison over the arena. This one's not very well telegraphed at all, so I hope you have a good reaction time or decent chaos res. Chetza is a bit of a step up in difficulty from Uxmal, but still not that bad. One thing to watch out for if you are melee is that rolling around this boss can be difficult. You can quite easily become stuck on the wing hitbox. First, watch out for when she rears her head back and starts forming a globule in her mouth. She'll slam this down on the ground for a large damaging AoE. Second is when she buries her beak in the ground, forming spiral patterns of spikes from her to the outside of the arena, giving you only a moment to move to the safe spaces between them. Finally, Chetza will raise her wings and begin buffeting you with a torrent of winds. Starting off slow and ramping in intensity, this swarm of exploding birds will follow you across the arena for a short time. Just don't stop moving during this attack. She will also occasionally summon a plagueling to come attack you. This thing isn't very dangerous, but it can serve as an extra distraction. If you're able to kill it quickly, you can remove it from the fight altogether. However, if you don't do enough damage to it quickly enough, it will return to Chetza, only to be healed and return later. Bahlak has always been the most dangerous for me, but of course that's up to personal preference. So let's get into exactly what he does. He's got two different telegraphed slams which can look a bit similar. One where he lifts directly up and slams down at your location, and one where he does a swoop along the ground, coming back to where he started and shooting out some wind projectiles at you. These projectiles are pretty easy to dodge or recover through, and his turn speed is also slowed while he's in the air, so you can just run behind him. By far his most deadly ability is this cone of spikes. They do a high amount of damage per spike and can shotgun. If you're ranged, they're not that bad. If you're melee, just be ready to roll behind him at a moment's notice. He does have an invulnerability phase where he'll summon some tornadoes that you'll just have to spend some time running away from. As long as there's no slowing traps in your arena, this one's not too bad. Finally, he has an enrage mechanic when he gets down to below half health. He'll darken the skies and jet streams of birds will start flowing across the arena. They're telegraphed by these little wind tunnels, and once you see one of these, you'll only have a moment before they start doing damage. If you're not confident you can handle the extra mechanic and reduced visual clarity of this phase on top of doing damage to him, you can focus on survival and wait it out. The arena will return to normal after some time. Once you make it through the final room of your ultimatum, the treasure room awaits. This is where you'll be given all of the loot from your run, as well as where you can claim your Ascendancy Points if you haven't already done so in that difficulty. If you just got done running a 10-room ultimatum, you'll also notice this curious door in the corner. Past this door lies the fourth and final Ascendancy Altar. To make your way through, you'll need to acquire the 3 Fate Fragments. These can be farmed from the bosses within the Trial of Chaos. Depending on which boss spawns on the 10th floor, you'll receive a different fragment upon their defeat. So if you are farming for these fragments in solo self-found, keep in mind that Deadly Fate drops from Bahlak, the Sky Seer, Cowardly Fate drops from Uxmal, the Beastlord, and Victorious Fate drops from Chetza, the Feathered Plague. At the time of recording, there's no stash anywhere in the trial, and you'll get at most 1 fragment from a single run. So make sure you have all of the fragments you need in your inventory before you start your trial. You wouldn't want to make it all the way to the door, only to realize that you forgot your keys. Arranging them like so in the door past the Ascendancy Altar will grant you access to the Trialmaster fight.
Your trial is yet over, mortal.
The mods from your runs don't apply here, it's just you and the Trialmaster. And it's pretty straightforward once you've seen it a few times, but the initial cost, as well as the time investment to arrive at just a single attempt is pretty high, so I'll be showing off all of his moves in case you want to know what you're getting yourself into.
Might of chaos.
This cone-shaped fissure attack is the one he usually starts the fight with, and it's much more easily dodgeable if you're close to him.
Be obliterated.
This next one's really no threat at all. He'll start channeling and increasing AoE, which will pop once it reaches its maximum size. Just run away from him for a few seconds when he does this.
Chaos, aid me.
This voice line signifies that he's swapping stances. He'll throw his spear into the ground wherever you're standing, and it will pulse for damage in an ever-increasing AoE. So it's best to try and place this around the outside of the arena. He'll also occasionally throw out these red balls, which will continue along the arena until they collide with terrain, at which point they will split and reverse direction. In this phase, he'll also spawn some bloody tether hearts underneath you. If you do get tethered to one of these, break it as soon as you can. You don't want to get stunned as he's readying a slam. When you hear
Ultimatum.
he'll pause time and ready 3 attacks to be released simultaneously. While his staff is on the ground, he'll throw out 3 of the splitting bloody orbs. However, when his staff is in hand, he'll create 3 separate angled fissures. For this one in particular, it's a good idea to be near a wall, as this limits the potential angles that he can spawn the fissures at, oftentimes having him angle them into the wall, fizzling out quickly, or overlapping them so that it reduces the effective area of the attack. Shred means he's about to start spinning his staff over his head and shooting out blood projectiles at you. The timing on this one can be a little weird, but the best way to dodge it is either to be really far away from him, as the projectiles do have some travel time, or behind him if possible, as his turn speed is limited during this attack. Just be careful as the staff spinning over his head does damage as well. Once you've finally bested him, come on up to the altar at the top of the arena and claim your points. Once you've fully ascended, there's still a perfectly valid reason to come back and refight the Trialmaster, as certain uniques can only drop from him. If you drop yourself a shield, that's a nice bit of currency to keep you going. But if you drop an adorned, well, just remember me as you're staring down at the countryside from the window of your private jet. Keep in mind that both of these items have a high roll range associated with their important stats, and identifying them might just cause them to depreciate in value. You could dramatically multiply the value of your item, or you might just end up one chance shard richer. I can't stress enough how volatile the market in this game is, and you should always be doing your own research before you make a decision like this. In the case of the shield, you wouldn't really even lose that much if you decided to take the gamble. However, when it comes to adorned, you'd have to roll at least a 70% for the item to maintain its current value, and there's a 60% chance that you immediately cut your item's value in half. So just make sure you don't get too excited when this drops and rush to ID it right away. It might just be the most expensive mistake you ever make. In case you do decide to come back and refarm the Trial of Chaos, you should know about magic ultimatums. These drop occasionally from the Trialmaster himself, or can be purchased from other players. These function just like other inscribed ultimatums, but they have some extra effects. They will always have at least one very potent downside, with the benefit of being able to sacrifice some currency in order to double it upon the completion of a successful run. If you do choose to do this, sometimes you'll find a genuinely good deal which can add some extra passive income to your runs, which is extra helpful if you're purchasing those fate fragments to attempt the Trialmaster every time, as that can really weigh on your personal economy while you're waiting for a valuable unique to drop. However, you will also see that some people struggle with complex concepts like which of these two numbers is bigger, so I can't say that I would recommend sifting through trade for these, but it is always an option. Here are all the corrupted ultimatum downsides as well as their ranges. This is how they appear on the trade site if you'd like to search for a specific one. Hey gamers, thanks very much for watching. Sorry this one took a while to come out. It's one of the most comprehensive videos that I've ever made, and I'm still learning a lot about graphic design, and I'm still getting over being sick. If you would like access to any of those cheat sheets that I built throughout the video, like maybe this one, or even this one, both of them will be hosted on a Google Drive in the description down below for your own personal use. If you liked any of the content in this video, or you found it helpful, please do leave a like, comment down below telling me what you thought, or subscribe if you'd like to see more. All of those things help the channel out a lot. That's all I've got for you, and as always, I'm Jeezy, and I'll see you in the next one.